been a long time. I feel really excited to be back. I'm going to talk through today a little bit about what's been going on for me, as well as us diving into what today's episode is about. But I would love, if you're listening, please do feel free to send me a DM and say hi and let me know, like on Instagram. I'm Ray underscore Dodd on there. Yeah, it would be lovely to hear from you. But yeah, it was an unintentional break. I thought I would come, like for a while, it was like a semi-unintentional break. I'm going to just take a bit of a break and then I'll be back. And then I've been meaning to be back, honestly, since before the summer. And it just hasn't quite happened for a number of different reasons. But here we are. Here we are. And I am excited because something I talk to my clients a lot about is like what mediums, what social media, what really works for you. That's where you want to focus, like what works for you, not where you're supposed to be. I think one of the reasons people feel really stuck at the moment around Instagram is because Instagram's become the platform you should be on. And I am not leaving Instagram, but I'm going to be making a lot of my content for YouTube and podcast. And then if you really want a lot of what I talk about, that's on my emails as well. That's where you'll find out where everything is. That just feels really good to me because I love to talk. I love to get stuff out, and I've not been doing enough of that for quite some time. So I feel very excited just to be back here talking to you all. So let me give you a bit of a recap of what's been going on for me. Might even be that I spoke about this before in old episodes because this has been going on for a long time. I started my business back in 2017, I think. And I started out, if you know my story, you know that my business came about because we were in a really difficult place money-wise. It was very much my business came from a place of like, oh shit, I need to sort this out. And it came from a definite place of dysregulation because we were having a really tricky time with money. And I was just like, let me try this new business idea I've had that I'd been sitting on. And once the tricky money situation happened, it was the rocket fuel I needed to get going. But I like shot out. I was like, if anyone's a fan of Michael Richards, who is in the UK, he was a footballer and now he's a football pundit. I'm obsessed with Michael Richards, and he always talks about bursting onto the scene. I nearly said that then, but there was my energy was like boom, rah, here I go. And I was running my business off of the fumes of fear for quite a while. It didn't feel like at the time I dealt with a lot. It's one of those weird things, aren't brains funny? But I was also dealing with a lot of fear, which is allowing me to be visible and allowing me to run this business in the first place and do all of those things. But I was very, very caught up in the cycle of hard work equals money, of toxic productivity, of going and going and going. And that's what I'm gonna talk a bit about where I've been at. This is very relevant for that, but also today's episode is very much about this kind of conditioning that comes up in our money. It is so deeply ingrained in us that the harder you work, the more money you make. And even when you've done the work to understand that the people who work the hardest aren't the ones who make money, it's still very tricky to completely rid yourself of this idea. It can feel so unsafe. So for a long time, my business like ran off that. And way back in 2020, so 3 years into my business, some stuff happened not linked to that that led me to start to find my business very difficult. I had a very tricky client thing happen that was really unpleasant. And that put me into some therapy, which was actually amazing. And I was in for 5 years. I had a one break, but pretty solidly in for 5 years. And I stopped that at the beginning of this year. And it was over those 5 years, very gradually, my need to always be working in order to feel safe, always be trying to make more money in order to feel safe was chipped away at. So when I say like always be working, what that looked like, it doesn't look like I don't have very consistent energy levels. I'm not somebody who is going and going and going and going. I am somebody who likes a good sit. I like a nice relaxing time. I don't struggle not to do anything. However, I would really struggle. This is quite a way back. This probably stopped about 3 years ago, maybe a bit more. So quite early into that therapy. At the weekends, if I wasn't working, I would struggle so much. I would feel like I wasn't good enough, I wasn't doing enough, it wasn't going to work, my business was going to fall apart. And it got so bad that actually some weekends I would just go to bed because I just couldn't. My anxiety was completely out of control. And really, what was happening there, and some of you might relate to this, was I wasn't soothing that fear that not working or resting and not working was okay and was a safe thing to do and wouldn't mean that things would fall apart again. So, like I said, my business came out of a time in my family when we had very little money and I really had to go out and make that money. And I think that had put me into this place of activation and I couldn't quite get myself out of it again. And at the weekends, when I wasn't soothing that fear by doing, or at least giving the illusion of doing, I would feel very anxious and couldn't and would just want to shut down. So I've been healing that, working on in amongst my therapy, which was very much talk therapy based. I've also worked with a number of people more somatically, more about my body and my nervous system. And I've learned through both of those things, through the therapy and the somatic work, to be much less, not to shove down my feelings. One of the first things I said when I went into my therapist's room, the first time we had a session, which she still laughs at me at, or until we finished recently, would laugh at me about in a totally lovely, not problematic way, was my one of my first sessions. I was like, I've got a lot of feelings and I would like to not have so many. They're really annoying me. I just didn't want to have these feelings. And I know lots of us do this. A lot of us who are very much people who exist in our heads do this, where we try and shove those feelings down. We either want to understand them or we want them to go away. We do not want to feel them. We do not want to engage our body in them. We just want to get the information, keep it in your head, nothing in your body, and then leave them behind. And obviously, that's not always possible. What happened to me in 2021, even though the catalyst was this client issue, really what was happening was so much that I'd bottled up for years and years and years was just I couldn't keep a lid on it anymore. It was overflowing. So for a long time, I have been trying to figure out this world of what does it look like to be paying attention to my nervous system, to be allowing my body to feel what it feels and still work the way I work. And I did this podcast episode. So I do a private podcast for the Plenty people as well. And they get that every week. And that has been ongoing while I've been taking the break from the public podcast. The private podcast carries on. And I did a podcast episode for them just before I went on holiday. And the episode was called something like The Confession That's Not a Confession, because I'd confessed it a number of times before. And some of you might even, if you've been listening for a long time, might be like, oh yeah, I think I've heard Ray confess that actually. And what that is that I have not been very good at taking holiday for the whole time I've been running my business. What was nice doing that episode is as I recorded it, I was able to be like, you know what? I'm giving myself a hard time. I'm not doing this as well as I could be. And I'm going to use, I don't like to use the word should, but I'm going to use the word should be just for my own health, essentially, and energy levels. But I was not as bad as I had been at taking breaks. So I didn't used to take any holiday at all for quite a few years. And then more recently, I have taken holiday. What I haven't been very good at is fully resting. So I would be checking in and I'd often be just lurking, not necessarily saying anything in groups. I would have told people I'm not going to be posting, but I would be checking in. And I don't know, some of you will hear straight away again. That was me being hyper vigilant around safety. In the same way, I would be just soothing that fear that something might be going on, that I might not be doing enough, that something's going to happen and it's going to get taken away, or that I'm not going to reach this invisible quota of whatever enough is, done enough or been enough, important distinctions, to make the money I want to make in the month. And that was something that was going on and on and on. So when I did this episode, I was talking about how I am going to go away. I went away camping with my kids and it was delightful. I'm going to go camping and I'm not going to check anything. And it was amazing. And one of the reasons I decided to do that at that point was because I could feel burnout nipping at my heels. I could feel myself finding it harder to be inspired, finding it harder to come up with stuff, finding it harder to be motivated. And those are some of the, I don't know if they're the first signals, but I know that they are some of the earlier signals of burnout. And I do not want to be there. I do not want to be there for so many reasons. So I took some time off in August, came back and was still a bit, I still need a bit more time. I need to go slower. And it was in that time, this is only a few weeks ago, that, oh, I've just clocked something that has been an issue in my business for a few years now, and I hadn't seen it clearly. And what that was my business habits, if you want to call them that. My business pace that I'm used to is go, 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 launch, 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 do all the things, then crash out. Then go, 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 launch, 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 do all the things, then crash out. Now I'm way better. That used to be very extreme when I first started out. Much better at that now, but I'm still expecting myself to have these big bursts of energy. And I don't think, since I've worked on my nervous system, that I am capable in the same way of those bursts of energy, which, if I'm honest, were fueled by fear, terror, and sometimes a dislike and a distrust of myself, a running away from who I'm scared I might be. I am so much better now at being sat in who I am, and I've always been quite good at that, but there's a different level to it now of acceptance and not running away from it. It's still something I'm learning how to navigate. But I could see that I've been trying to run my business on my old nervous system, if that makes sense. While I am still in the process of doing that work around my nervous system, I can say I do not experience anxiety to the level I used to. It used to be so extreme. For me, like I said, send me to bed. I would feel this cold feeling all over my body. It was so unpleasant. And I haven't felt that feeling for a very long time. I'm not saying it will never come back, but I do think things are so much better for me in that space. And so I was trying to run, having done all that work, like gone to all those therapy sessions, I was trying to run my business on that nervous system, which, funnily enough, I say had its benefits. They're not, it wasn't sustainable. It couldn't carry on, clearly, but it did mean I got work done in a way that I was used to, that real burst. And it's just not possible to me. And it became really clear to me after that holiday that I have been, I've had one foot in each camp. And that's partly why I've not been fully owning the pace at which, the ways in which I run my business as this version of me. This version of me who is 8 years older, more experienced, probably wiser than the version of me that started out my business, who was just running on fumes. I was also obsessed with my business. It was everything in my world. I read, all I did was read books about business. All the social media I consumed was pretty much around business. And that's not true in the same way anymore. I still love what I do. That has not changed, but it's not the same all-consuming scenario anymore. So in terms of where I've been, it's been really interesting that I've had this time off and now I'm coming back and it sounds, kind of makes sense that I'm figuring out what does it look like to own that space. And I don't have full answers for you right now. I will, of course, take you along that ride with me. But I also know it's something a lot of us are wanting. And I will say, at no point in any of this am I thinking, therefore, my money goals, my money plans need to be less. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think they have to be any less just because I plan to go slower. So I have no plans for that. No plans on diminishing what I want, what I need, what I want to go after. I just am going to adapt it and be honest about who I am in this moment and stop trying to run my business as someone I've spent lots of money and time, just healing and kind of stepping into new spaces with. So that's a bit about where I've been at, but it links really nicely into what I wanted to talk about today. Which is, as I've come back, we're now in the end of the first week of September as I'm recording this. And I've spoken to so many clients. I've had plenty calls this week. I've had a bulk money call this week. I've had one-on-one calls with people. And something that's coming up over and over again is I'm super proud of so many of my clients who took time off, who rested, who slowed down. Some of them are going to slow down more in September, especially those of them without kids who can have a delightful time holidaying and stuff outside of school time. But so many of them have reported the same thing, and they didn't link it, but I'm going to link it for them and for you. So, so many of them, like I said, have slowed down, and then they have come into our calls. And this week, I would say the theme has been feeling wobbly. The theme has been feeling low on worth, unsure of what they're doing, if they've achieved anything, generally feeling flat and unsure of themselves. And I am fairly sure that is linked to the fact that they took time to rest. And what happens when we rest? Our productivity inevitably is not at the same level of getting things done, ticking off to-do lists, checking boxes, having that momentum. It slows as it should do, like really, really clearly, as it should do. That it's a slightly cheesy, like millennial Pinterest quote to say, but nothing in nature blooms all the time, right? And so, so many of them have taken that rest, go them. And what I see happening is they have not been able to soothe where those parts of their self-worth that rely on them being productive. And so when it comes to their businesses and their money making, they're feeling like I haven't done enough. And then it becomes, I am not enough. I'm not good at this. I don't know what I'm doing. And as that wobble sets in, it starts to become, they look like they did know what they're doing more than me. That person's doing better than me. Oh, will I ever get this right? I am not good enough. And it's a real cycle of where capitalism has ingrained in us, our conditioning has ingrained in us that to do things is to be worthy. And I want you to know that you are worthy, sat on your ass in your pajamas, no bra on, eating a big bag of crisps and watching your favorite TV show. You are as worthy than when you get everything done on your to-do list. Those two experiences, human experiences, are one is not better than the other. One, and that might not be your way of resting. It's mine. Watching some kind of American TV show about first responders. Don't know why. Well, I do know why. I think it's Casualty from when I was younger. Always loved Casualty. That was a staple in the at the time, my maiden name, Bullivant household. We would watch Casualty. I think it was it like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night? That's what it feels like it was. Anyway, that led to ER, that led to Grey's Anatomy, that's led to all of the Chicago One franchise and many, many other programs about terrible things happening to people that I find weirdly relaxing. Anyway, that's an aside. So I want you to know that however you replenish, that is not you not being worthwhile. I've been talking about the problems with capitalism and its attachment to working hard to make money, probably for 7 of the 8 years I've been coaching. I have been on that, if not all of them. And I still find in myself deeper and deeper layers of where that is showing up. And for so many of us who are not born with a big old well of energy, and like I said, I am absolutely one of them, it really does stop you making the money you're meant to make because you keep trying to have a business that doesn't represent who you are or the energy levels you have. And so you're constantly in a cycle of, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. Trying to fix that instead of stepping back and being like, what if I created a business for who I am right now? What if I did that? What would that look like? Would that be helpful? Yes, it would. Of course it would. So this wobble, you may be feeling it too post summer holidays, which is why I wanted to get this episode out and talk about this now. And as you can see, it really fed into my original plan for this episode was to talk about where I'd been at, and they're two linked so well together. If you're coming off a break and you're finding yourself not hitting the ground running, we always expect to hit the ground running in September, and it rarely happens. If you're finding yourself not hitting the ground running, instead trying to muster up your confidence, feeling a bit wobbly, feeling like, what have I achieved lately? Am I even good at this? All of that stuff. Please know all that is a symptom that somewhere along the line, by so many different places, you were conditioned to believe that your worth, that your ability was all tied to being productive and to your output and doing and doing and doing, and that money only comes from hard work. And so when you're resting, you lose some of your ability to grasp onto what is true and what is possible for you because you've linked it to your output. That's all that's happening. It's not that you're a piece of shit. It's not that you're no good. It's not that you can't do this. It's just you need to find your flow again. You need to get back into a nice rhythm. And maybe this rhythm looks different to the rhythm that you've been doing before. Maybe this rhythm looks more like baking in those breaks all the time rather than longing to be able to just stop. And that's part of what I'm working on at the moment. If this sounds good to you, Bold Money, the doors are open right now. I haven't talked about this much because I haven't had the podcast, but I've been talking about it to people in plenty. We've got a few people signed up. I want you to know that Bold Money's doors are open. Bold Money is my 6-month group program where we go deep on the Bold Money framework as well as advanced money mindset work. It's for you if currently your income feels scattered and you want to move into those 5K months, but all whilst building a business around who you are, not who you should be or who you hope you'll one day be. Instead, who you are right now, which, by the way, is a glorious human being. So, if that sounds good to you, the early bird is open until next Friday. The details will be, I'll put the dates and the details in the show notes. If you want to have, you can have a look at the PDF if that sounds good to you and book a call with me to chat through if you'd like to join. It has been lovely to be back with you. And like I said, please do feel free to send me a DM on Instagram and let me know how you've been and any thoughts or questions you had about this episode or about Bold Money. All right, I'll see you all soon.